Hello everybody and welcome to VFR. Today we are back here at First Flight Airport, Kilo Foxtrot Alpha in Kill Devil Hills, North Carolina. And we're going to be taking a quick hop in the Mooney M20, talking a little bit about why this is a fun place to fly out here in the Outer Banks, North Carolina. So the flight plan today is extremely simple. We're going to be taking off here from First Flight. We're going to head south down the Outer Banks, out towards until we basically hit Billy Mitchell Airport down in Cape Hatteras. We'll turn around and come on back. We are loaded up with 3 adult humans today, so we are pushing our maximum weight, and we're taking about 40% fuel, so 19 gallons in each tank. Should be an interesting ride. So I'm going to get this thing fired up. We are going to plug in everything we need to, and then we'll get on the road. We are on VATSIM today, but there is no ATC around us at the moment. If there is, we might check in for flight following, depending on how busy center is, but we'll keep an eye on that. So we've got the airplane running. We are ready to go. I'm just going to zoom out and show you what we're going to be doing today. We are here at Kilo Foxtrot Alpha. That's First Flight Airport here in Kill Devil Hills. We're going to be flying south out to a GPS waypoint, Zolman, and then over the Billy Mitchell Airport in Cape Hatteras. We'll turn around and do the same leg back. That just keeps us out of these restricted areas off of the coast of North Carolina. Those are a few MOAs out there where they may or may not be doing stuff that might be a danger to airplanes like us. So we're going to taxi on out and backtrack onto runway 22, and then we will take off and depart out to the south. First flight traffic, Mooney 776 Victor Foxtrot is backtracking runway 22 for a south departure. First flight. Alright, so it's runway 21. I don't know why I said 22, but no harm done. They get the idea. We're going to make our call and then taxi on out. Again, we're just going to be departing basically straight out. We're going to roughly follow the GPS line, but we're totally VFR today, so no pressure to do so. First flight traffic, Mooney 76 Victor Foxtrot is taking runway 21 for a south departure. First flight. Alright, so we're going to line it up at the center line. We're going to gradually go full power, holding the brakes on. Once we hit about 80 knots, we will go ahead and rotate, and then we'll try to climb out around 120 knots. Mixture is full rich, props are full up. It's full power, going to release the brakes. And we're away. We are pretty heavily laden today, so I'd expect a longer takeoff roll. It's 80 knots. Gears coming up. We are fighting a pretty stiff wind today. I think it's gusting up to 20 knots. But we are in the air. And right now we're flying over Kill Devil Hills, the site, famously, of the Wright brothers' first powered flight with the Wright Flyer. On the hill is the National Monument, part of the national park they built here. Of course, Kill Devil Hills, the town itself, didn't exist until the 50s. At the time the Wright brothers were out here, this really would have been wilderness, frontier town almost. Not easy to get to. But nice and windy, blustery, and apparently a good place to launch airplanes. Should probably get out of the way. First flight traffic, Mooney 6 Victor Foxtrot is clear the runway, departing to the south. First flight. The problem I have with my untowered radio comms is that I've always done it on DCS. So I was about to say I'm pushing tactical, but I'm not, obviously. And now you're out over the Atlantic Ocean. So nice, then you're going to have some blustery winds. Beach is off to our right. We're going to be flying down this chain of, I guess it's a cape, all the way down to Cape Hatteras. And we're at 1,000 feet. We're going to go ahead and level off. We're not going to be too terribly high for this. So we're here at 1,000 feet, cruising along the beach, and again, this is really where Microsoft Flight Simulator, in my opinion, shines, at this 1,000 to 2,000 foot VFR altitude. We're going to climb up a little bit as we go further over the beach. As we head south, we're going to pass Nag's Head, and off in the island over there is Roanoke Island. That is the site of one of the first colonies on in North America, the Roanoke Island colony, the famous one for disappearing without a trace. Right over there. There's also a regional airport over there now, probably larger for more traffic if you're coming in and out of the area. So as far as visual references go, we're passing the Oregon Inlet now. It's one of the inlets along this chain, letting you into the Pamlico Sound and the other various sounds around us. Basically, mainland North Carolina is off to our far right, the larger landmass, and we're going to be entering into an area where it's a little bit farther away. Pamlico Sound gets pretty large out here, and we're going to be out, especially once we get down to Hatteras, really out on our own a little bit. Probably a good 10-15 miles away. Now, the island beaches, it's not the Caribbean, it's not Florida, so you're not going to get the crystal clear water, but it is fun. You're on the Atlantic coast of the United States. A lot of interesting weather patterns, a lot of interesting sights to see, like we saw. Also, a lot of airspace. Also, a lot of interesting airspace. You're not relatively very far from places like Charlotte, from Washington, D.C. It's probably a 2 or 3 hour flight in Mooney like this. So if you want to take a trip down to the beach in your Sim Mooney, that's a good option. This is a good destination for that, especially if you're flying out of any of those international airports or anything like that. So we're now heading into the Pea Island National Wildlife Refuge. This is one of many wildlife areas along the Outer Banks. Mostly preserved beaches and sand dunes and places like that. I'm going to go ahead and hop back into the front seat and just bring us right ever so slightly. So like I was saying, you have good island flying, or island-like flying, beach flying, if you will, if you want to take your beach vacations in your sim. But you also get some different weather, especially if you're using live weather. There can be some storms, some gusts. It'll get colder here than it will in Florida, so you may have to worry about icing and things like that. You also will have a lot more considerations when it comes to IFR flying. It might be a good place to train for that.
Yes, 187 Heavy Cross SO at 1000 in Atlantic City, correction, Philly, altimeter 3031.
Alright, SO at 1000.
So we're coming up here on Hatteras Island, one of the widest landmark in Cape Hatteras and these barrier islands. Now this area, historically, it's famous for its lighthouses. Many lighthouses around the Outer Banks. And historically, this area, broadly, is known as the graveyard of the Atlantic. Because of shifting sands, these banks, among the banks, and treacherous weather conditions, and all sorts of stuff. Lots of ships throughout history have beached in places like this. Famous among them, one of the first ironclads, USS Monitor, after it won the Battle of Hampton Roads, or tied the Battle of Hampton Roads, came down here. Blackbeard, another famous wreck, the Queen Anne's Revenge, heck of a name for a ship, and many, many others. There are a number of ships that have wrecks around this area, and yeah, it's a constantly shifting area. Now there's also, plenty of traffic modern day out along the Atlantic coast of the United States. A lot of the Navy will use a lot of these areas for various reasons, and commercial shipping as well. So there's a heavy maritime presence. Off to our right is Pamlico Sound. We're about, at this point, the farthest we're going to get away from mainland North Carolina. And if we keep following the Barrier Islands down this way, we will eventually run back into North Carolina around the Marine Corps Air Station at Cherry Point. There's a few cities around there, around Cape Lookout, and Ocracoke is the island next, off to our right. We're going to come right a little bit. So at this point, we're out here. We're pretty remote, actually. And this would be could be a good test of your IFR skills coming into a place like this, especially if the weather isn't so great. But the scenery is great, too. I really enjoy flying up and down the reef, or just flying in and out. You have a few beach towns around this area, and there's actually our waypoint, which is Billy Mitchell Regional Airport, I believe, which is on the edge of Cape Hatteras. There's also another airport further down, Roanoke Island, which is down that way. So I'm going to take control, and we are going to head on back. On our way back, we'll monitor... Washington Center has showed up, so I've muted them to talk about it. But Washington Center showed up, so we'll probably monitor that on the way back. And we'll see about flight following. We probably have another 25 minutes on the way back. So we may call them up.
traffic no factor, climbing 380, Delta 421.
Washington Center, Spearwing Base 77, requesting 5 minutes out of the cockpit.
Spearwing Base 77, first floor.
Center Sky was 3396, Pyra.
Sky was 3396, go.
Yep, lights about our job 250.
Sky was 3396, thanks. And yep, give us a second one for report.
So another fun thing to do, if you have one of those small fast jets, T-45 or the Hawk, which just came out from Just Flight, this is a pretty good place to fly one of those things. Now, realistic, you know, for the MB339 probably not, but it is a very common military operations area. Just off to our north is Norfolk and all of the Navy and Air Force, U.S. military personnel that come along with that. And this is one of the areas where they'll come and train and do all sorts of stuff. Pretty much basically off to our left. There's a bunch of MOAs, military operation areas, that they will use, and so that if you're looking for a semi-realistic place to fly your fast jet, could be another option for you. Alright, we're on our descent into Kitty Hawk. We're going to fly over Roanoke Island, just for the fun of it. Off to our left is North Carolina. And we're going to fly over Dare County Regional Airport. This is another airport you could fly into if you wanted to. I think it has a larger runway than First Flight. First Flight's pretty small, all things considered. And I'm aiming to be at about 2,000 feet. And then we'll get down to about 1,000 feet. It's going to be pretty much right at sea level. Yeah, 43 feet, so 2,000 feet down to 1,000 feet. We're going to come in on runway 21, and we are probably going to enter 45 degrees for the left downwind. So yeah, I really enjoy the forested islands and the little towns. It's fun because it's in my head a place you can come visit from some of the major population centers. If you're flying down from Norfolk, especially like I said in your fast jets, or if you want to come out from Raleigh or Charlotte or even Atlanta, somewhere like that, you definitely do that. And there's plenty of small regional airports kind of dotted around that you can fly into. It's not necessarily bush territory. I wouldn't say that a bush flyer might. You could probably land on the beaches and stuff. So I suppose there's some room for bush flyers. But as far as a general aviation destination, I do think it gives you a nice, interesting place to fly into if you're just sick of land and flat land and grass and places. The barrier islands of the Outer Banks, North Carolina. And if you want to be realistic, there's plenty of chart obstacles that you can look out for. You have not a lot of airspaces. There's no big international airports you're going to run into until you get up to Norfolk, which is at Class Charlie. But you do have a towered airport out of Elizabeth City. But mostly it's going to be restricted areas and MOAs that you'll be around. So especially flying in from the west, you kind of thread the needle into the Wright Brothers VOR, Romeo Bravo X-Ray, which is actually located here at Dare County Regional Airport. So we're going to fly right over it. But basically, if you track a radial inbound to that, the right one, not sure what exactly it would be, but if you're flight planning to that VOR and then fly over to Kitty Hawk, you could thread the needle in between those restricted areas. But that just adds a little bit of geography to flying in this area. Try to avoid those areas and really just to plan around it, keep your flight plan, and there's lots of good visual references to navigate off of. And if you want to do IFR flying, you can dial up or find some nasty conditions. Just fine, I'm sure. We're descending through 2,500. We're about over Dare County. And then I think we'll just keep on flying out over the tip of the island, over to the Albemarle Sound, and then we'll just take a right-hand turn once we're about 45 to Kilo Foxtrot Alpha. You can see it on our map down here. So we want to continue our descent. And we're at about 110 knots, so we're not letting the speed get away from us. And I haven't been putting my foot down because canonically this is going to be a sightseeing tour. As we look out to our right, keep an eye out for the airport. It is kind of tucked away, as longtime viewers of the channel will know. And we'll see if I can do better this time. Last time I about ran off the runway. You can just about see the mound. Or the hill with the monument. And we're about down at 2,000 feet. And there's the runway. You can just about make it out. We're going to fly out around to the left of it. And enter, I guess, a right pattern. First flight traffic, Mooney 776 Victor Foxtrot is entering a right downwind by the 45 to land runway 21, full stop, first flight. So we're going to fly out over this this island here, and then we'll turn in right for the downwind. Then we'll get all configured for landing, gear, flaps, all that. And we'll try to keep our speed down around 100 knots. So I'm going to come off the power even more now. We're descending through 1,600. And we have the field. It's down there in those trees. So that is one thing to keep an eye on. Not a very good 45-degree entry, but that's okay. First flight traffic, Mooney, 6 Victor Foxtrot is on the right downwind to land runway 21, full stop, first flight. And we're down at 1,000 feet now, so we'll bring the power back up. Stop losing altitude. I'm going to turn off my flight director just so that doesn't get in our way. We bring the gear down, and we're going to give it our first notch of flaps. And we have the airport off to our left. We're a little close. We'll go ahead and extend because we're a little high. So we'll keep the descent going. And we may have a little bit of a crosswind. We're getting blown around pretty good here. First flight traffic, Mooney 6 Victor Foxtrot is right base to land, full stop, runway 21, first flight. Route over the beach. And we have the runway just over there. So we are at 700 feet. We'll give it a little bit more power to keep in it and start our turn. We'll give it the last couple knocks of flaps as well. I'm going to put our speed brakes out. We're aiming for 80 knots at this point. First flight traffic, Mooney 6 Victor Foxtrot is on final to land, runway 21, full stop, first flight. Bring the speed brakes in, we're getting a little slow. This runway is good fun. Let's see if I can talk. Narrow and relatively short. Let's get wheels in the ground. Putting in a bit of left rudder to keep us down, but much better than the last time we were here. A little hard in landing, but yeah. And we will go ahead and taxi off. First flight traffic, Mooney 6 Victor Foxtrot is clear, runway 21, first flight. Not sure exactly where it spawned us, but we'll go here. Alright, welcome back to First Flight. So all in all, good fun. It's a nice place to cruise around, and I really like it as a destination for when I'm trying to get away in my sim world. See the Wright Brothers monument up here. This is a fun airport too. Definitely recommend First Flight, especially if you're just trying to practice your general aviation flying. It's not a bush trip by any means. It's, it's a paved runway that's long enough for you to land. So bush pilots your mileage may vary, but for the rest of us, mortal folk, it's a good fun airport to land at. A little bit challenging, a little bit hard to pick out. But, once you get here, it's very scenic. This is really nice in real life, too. So definitely recommend you visit in real life. But, as far as a good base for your explorations of the Outer Banks, fun place to fly into, especially for any of your general aviation cruisers, tours. You can get here in a couple hours from a lot of major airports, especially in the DC area or in Raleigh or down to Charlotte or Atlanta or anywhere like that. So Eastern U.S., it's a good destination for the trips. And if you want to fly around, I think you could also cook up some really nice IFR scenarios, trying to get in or get out with a good storm coming. Could be a lot of fun. So that's just a quick flight around the Outer Banks here in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020. Hope you've enjoyed. If you have any questions, comments, if you have any ideas for places to go, places I should visit, drop them in the comment section below. As always, this has been VFR. Take it easy, y'all.